Hey guys, it's Chris. From a cursed mummy cheese to a disturbing find of hundreds of gerbil teeth, here are 10 of the most recent creepy discoveries. Number 10. Cursed mummy cheese. When you're talking about creepy discoveries, there's nothing quite as bizarre as putting the words cheese and mummy together. Of course, I'm talking about the cursed mummy cheese that was recently discovered in Egypt. It's either cursed or seriously contaminated. Either way, I don't really want to eat it. The cheese was discovered within a large cache of broken clay jars in the tomb of a former mayor of Memphis. This is the Memphis of ancient Egypt, not the one in Tennessee. The tomb was most likely built in the 13th century BC, which would make the cheese roughly 3,300 years old. Researchers from a university in Italy stumbled upon the cache during an excavation back in 2014. However, it's taken a while to study all the discoveries within the tomb. The oldest cheese ever wasn't reported until 2018, after researchers examined the cheese and took samples at their chemistry lab for proper analysis. The analysis eventually revealed that the cursed mummy cheese was probably made of a mixture of cow milk and goat milk. But things get even stranger. Like I mentioned, this isn't normal cheese, it's cursed. The researchers also discovered that the cheese contained a special protein that can cause a very contagious disease known as brucellosis. The disease is typically transferred from cows to humans through milk and contaminated meat. Take a bite of this cursed cheese, and you'll find yourself sicker than death. Number 9. The spiral mass grave. In Mexico, the ancient Maya and Aztec cultures practiced all kinds of elaborate funeral rites and religious sacrifices. These were key parts of the ancient Mesoamerican civilizations. And while researchers have found hordes of evidence that supports this, from an Aztec temple with 32 sets of neck bones to racks of human skulls, a more recent discovery out of Mexico City has revealed something truly strange. It's like something out of a bad Rob Zombie movie. Archaeologists discovered 10 human skeletons positioned in a spiral that were likely buried with their arms interlinking. This grave is about 2,400 years old, and it's the largest number of skeletons in a single burial plot from the pre-classical period of Mexico. That's from between 2000 BC and 280. Researchers from the National Institute of Anthropology and History have identified the remains as belonging to both men and women, including a toddler and an infant. All the people in the spiral were buried in a single event. However, the nature of this event is completely unknown. The archaeologists don't understand why they were linked together at the arms or positioned in such a strange spiral. So what's the craziest thing you've ever found? Maybe an old knife or hatchet somewhere in the woods with a mysterious past? Or something maybe even more bizarre? Let me know in the comments section below. Then be sure to subscribe to World List for more amazing videos just like this one. Number 8. Spiked skulls. Let's check out some more creepy skeletons. The next disturbing skeleton find is from Scandinavia, where archaeologists in Sweden unearthed human remains never before seen in the region. There were skulls found impaled on spikes that date back over 8,000 years. But the evidence is mysterious to say the least. It would appear that the bodies had been buried before the heads were cut off. And this itself is boggling archaeologists from Stockholm University in Sweden. First of all, the skeletons were discovered at the bottom of a peat bog. And the way the skeletons were laid out suggested that their deaths had been for ceremonial purposes. But even after closely examining 10 of the skeletons, researchers were no closer to understanding what had happened. Among the human bones were animal bones from bears and badgers, and the evidence showed that the animals were butchered after death, but not for eating. The human skulls were found with severe trauma to the tops of the skulls. However, the traumas showed signs of healing, and this means that these 10 people had been bashed in the head and then allowed to heal. The researchers also found over 400 wooden stakes scattered throughout the dig site. They believe some could have been used as part of a fence, but some were also clearly used for jamming through the skulls. As for why any of it happened or what kind of ritual went down, researchers simply don't know. All they know is that 8,000 years ago, some people got clobbered on the head, and then they had their heads chopped off, and then they had their heads shoved on spikes and thrown into a lake. Number 7. 4 legs and 4 arms. Believe it or not, a baby in Uganda was born with 4 arms and 4 legs, and locals are worried that it's because of witchcraft. This is not something that generally happens, either being born with 8 limbs or assuming your baby is the product of witchcraft, but it does happen sometimes nonetheless. The pregnancy was completely normal. but when the baby came out, he had 4 arms and 4 legs. Apparently, the extra limbs had been part of a twin growing alongside of him. However, the baby absorbed the rest of the other twin and managed to grow himself a few extra appendages along the way. Tests showed that the boy had his liver and heart on the wrong sides of his body. This is a condition known as parasitic twins and happens when 2 embryos begin developing in utero but don't separate. One embryo will maintain the dominant development and basically absorb everything from the other. But it never turns out super well. Extra limbs, missing organs, or things grown in the completely wrong spot. Luckily, this case turned out well in the end. A team of surgeons managed to complete the operation to remove the extra arms and legs, and the baby is expected to be healthy for the remainder of his life. It should also be noted that it's impossible for a person to be born with 8 proportionate limbs. When this kind of thing happens, it's usually with the limbs in very strange positions and hopelessly disfigured. Number 6. The Hand of Moa. The giant moa claw discovered in a cave system on a mountain in New Zealand has long been a creepy source of mystery. It obviously looks like the claw from some horrifying beast out of a monster movie, but it actually belonged to a giant moa bird about 3,300 years ago. And these birds went extinct roughly 700 years ago. And so far, this claw has been the best preserved leftover ever found. It came complete with nails, flesh, and muscles. These birds were about 12 feet tall and could easily peck your eyes right out of your head. But even though the discovery happened 3 decades ago, it's been getting a lot of attention recently. This is because scientists won't stop talking about bringing the bird back to life. Scientists from Harvard University claim they can do it, but considering the atmosphere of 2020, people have been revolting against the idea of resurrecting a prehistoric monster that could eat a human baby for breakfast. The claw is creepy enough on its own. This is not the time for us to be bringing back a whole bird. Number 5. The Unluckiest Death. All the people who were caught in the Mount Vesuvius eruption of 79 AD were pretty unfortunate. The people of Pompeii in southern Italy were wiped out pretty much immediately. There was one guy who had a significantly worse time than anyone else. Rather than just being turned into stone instantly as if Medusa had snuck up on him, a giant stone fell on his head. A recent discovery from the Pompeii archaeological site has revealed the skeleton of a man literally crushed by a huge boulder as he was trying to flee the eruption. The rock was likely thrown violently into the air by the volcanic cloud, and the guy just so happened to be in the wrong spot at the wrong time. According to a report from The Independent, the stone block hit the man in his upper body, crushed his thorax, and likely flattened his skull. His head has yet to be identified, and archaeologists believe it's likely hidden somewhere beneath the stone block. The archaeologists also said that the man had been suffering from an infection on his leg, and it likely slowed his escape. You can just imagine this poor guy limping away from an exploding volcano, only to be flattened by a flying stone. It's something you'd kind of only expect to see in a B-rated action movie, but it really did happen, and the creepy evidence is still petrified in the stone to prove it. Number 4. The Hunger Stones. In Europe, hunger stones have been surfacing with dire warnings. This happened just recently, when Europe was being battered by a ridiculously hot summer. While Europe was cooking, the bizarre remnants of ancient societies were revealing themselves all across the land. It's all because of the drought. With such hot temperatures, water levels in many of the rivers throughout Europe reached dangerous lows. And when the water levels dropped, the hunger stones were revealed. These are stones with inscriptions that date all the way back from between 1400 and 1600, back when there had been a drought that caused much of Europe to go hungry. This is why they're called hunger stones. The most famous hunger stone was found in Czech Republic, with an inscription that dates back to 1616 and reads, "If you see me, weep." Another hunger stone was found in Germany from 1417, with a message saying, "If you will again see the stone, so will you weep. So shallow the water was in the year 1417. Basically, all of these stones being revealed by the dropping water levels have some kind of creepy message from the past written on them. And while some people look at it as a warning about future weather disasters, others say that even 400 years ago they had problems with drought, so nothing has actually changed. Number 3. Ferocious animal captives. New evidence coming out of Mexico has revealed that not only did the ancient Aztec people sacrifice humans, but they also had sacrifices that included exotic animals like eagles, jaguars, and pumas. A team of archaeologists excavating the famous Mexican site found roughly 194 bones of animals that had been sacrificed and then put inside of pyramids as decorations. And this is kind of the ancient equivalent to having a bearskin rug. It doesn't get much creepier than decorating your pyramid with eagle bones, and this happened sometime between 1 and 550 AD. It actually predates the infamous Aztec zoo described by the Spanish about 1,000 years later. And to make things even more disturbing, some results showed that the exotic carnivores were likely fed omnivores, like dogs and humans. And that would mean that the Aztecs were literally feeding people to their jaguars. However, it is still unclear whether humans were fed to the animals as part of a sacrifice ritual or, just part of a random Wednesday afternoon feeding frenzy. Number 2. 400 gerbil teeth. In a remote area of Kenya, archaeologists have uncovered the earliest known monumental grave site in the east of Africa. This place was built about 5,000 years ago, likely by the first herders in the region. According to the archaeologists on site, this enormous graveyard was built by the people for the people. It's one of the largest construction projects ever seen in Africa, even if it was thousands of years ago. The site is now known as the Lothagam North Pillar Site, and it's a sprawling field of rock rings, short stone columns, and lumpy burial mounds. In this place, our ancient ancestors would have buried everyone together indiscriminately, whether they were elites or simple tribe members. A single burial chamber would have held almost 600 individuals. But here's where things get creepy. Almost all the skeletons found in this giant graveyard were ornamented with some kind of jewelry. Some wore jewelry made of hippo ivory, and others wore headdresses of animal teeth. One particular corpse wore a disturbing headpiece that consisted of 405 gerbil teeth that experts say were pulled from at least 100 gerbils. It's pretty disgusting. Just imagine bedazzling your hat with teeth you had to manually pull out of 100 gerbils. That is more than just a little bit creepy. Number 1. Pits of skulls. In the ancient Chinese city of Shimao, researchers have discovered yet another pit full of bones, but this one is unique in its creepiness. First, there are a few important facts about Shimao. It's a Neolithic city of mystery that was lost for thousands of years, until recent archaeologists began to dig around. They have since found a lot of amazing things, especially in 2020. Some of their discoveries include insights into the original Chinese civilization before any dynasties, plus a disturbing history of ritual sacrifice. There have been pyramids found at this site, and of course the pits of skulls that make any normal person nauseous. Inside the innermost sanctum of the largest pyramid of this ancient city, archaeologists found relief sculptures in stone depicting monsters and serpents, and they also found underneath one of the walls 6 pits filled with 80 human skulls. And that's a lot of decapitating even for a Neolithic tribe. The archaeologists believe that it had something to do with a ritual. The newest information is saying that all of these skulls belong to young women, possibly princesses or noble women from rival tribes and groups. Not a single skull in this place was found with a skeleton. And this is especially creepy considering that the skeletons kinda have to be somewhere, likely buried in even another part of this giant pyramid. Apparently, the area with the skull pits was a sacred place of power, used by the elite members of the society who lived at the top of the pyramid. However, we still don't know exactly what the ritual entailed, or what it could have possibly been for. I mean, what could anyone even really need 80 human skulls for, besides maybe summoning the devil? Which of these discoveries creeped you out the most? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching. Come back soon for another awesome video. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button before you go.